Welcome into Intercollegiate Conversations, as today we're pleased to be joined by Shawn Chin-Farrell, the Director of Athletics at Cal State University, Northridge. And Shawn, I want to just first dive in with you. Appreciate the time, of course, but let's start with you and your career and how you first got into working in college athletics, leading you to where you are now as an athletic director.
Well, first, thank you for having me. Appreciate the invitation and excited for the conversation. I have a bit of a unique background. So I was actually a practicing attorney in Seattle, and I started giving back. And by that, I mean I was a soccer student athlete in college, and I had the opportunity to start youth coaching, and was doing high level club youth coaching, and I realized that the developmental process that I went through as a young person and that I was a part of as a coach, kind of taking young people and using sport and competition for not only their physical development but also their development in all aspects of their lives. It was really impactful, and my avocation really became just a part of what I really enjoyed. And so while I had a thriving law practice, it just didn't impact me the same way. And so I started to talk to people and explore, could this possibly be a career path? And so my law school alma mater, University of Washington, was going through some things with their football program and the NC2A compliance regarding March Madness and betting. And so they had some transition in their staff, and they actually inquired if I'd be interested in coming in and helping part of the solution within their compliance staff and kind of do an overhaul. So I left the practice of law and started in compliance. And I tell people I haven't worked a day in my life since. So it was a real wonderful opportunity again to work directly with young people in this area. And the nice part about compliance as an introduction to college athletics is that you have a touch point with every area. And so because I had this pretty extensive coaching background, I came into it maybe kind of different than a lot of compliance administrators do, in that I understood our coaches could speak their language and really nurtured really strong, trusting relationships in that space, especially as we kind of rebuilt those relationships at Washington. And so through that, I just again had really good exposure to every area. And so as I kind of advanced in my career there, about 5 years, Seattle University came along and asked me if I would be interested in joining their senior team as they made the transition back to Division One. And so I actually shortened my commute to take the next step. I went from a 15-minute drive to a 15-minute walk. And at Seattle, it was wonderful. We had 9 years and was exposed to every area, which led to eventually being the interim athletics director.
It's an interesting path that you have led and unique, I imagine, compared to a lot of others. How important is that passion? Because, look, I've worked in sports for a long time too, and there's so much that goes into it, time and effort. And how important is it to have that passion to be able to work in college athletics?
Yeah, I think when I talk to young people about a career in college athletics, I really challenge them to find out what their why is. So what's their personal motivators? And so for some people, it's being around sport. For me, it's nuanced in that way, and that it really is about sport, but using it to develop young people, this particular group. And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with when they can't manage the time commitment, is because if you're not about working with the 18 to 22-year-old and working with them in all aspects, it's just about sport. That's going to be a challenge for some people. And so you really have to understand why you want to do it. And so for me, and that's one of the reasons why I've kind of landed in the spaces I have, is because we can really have that direct impact. And so I think it's really important when people ask themselves, what is it about why I want to work in sports? Is to have a real honest conversation about what it is are their drivers and motivators. And so for me, again, I love that developmental process. I love competition, but competition as an internal exercise to grow people and to ensure that they're asking themselves the right questions and challenging themselves to be better in every way. And so once I moved into administration, I started doing that as I build culture with my teams in the same way as we try and get better. So the same way we challenge our young people, we also challenge our staff to enjoy the heck out of what you're doing. But if you're really connected to it, the hours don't matter, quite frankly, nearly as much. And again, I'm not a big believer in work-life balance. It just doesn't work in this profession. I'm a big believer in work-life integration. And so what I mean by that is like with families with children, like I have young children, is that we expect to see them around, right? Coaches with kids, I want to see them here. I want to see their spouses, their partners, because of what we do. It is so we're not hours based, we're project based. I like to say it's about getting the job done. And you have to buy into that. And if you do, you can really enjoy it. If you don't, it can be a struggle.
What do you think is something that you know now after all your years working in this
Mhm.
field that you wish you knew maybe when you were first starting out that would have helped you and can help young people getting into this industry now?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is to start conversations. And something that's really benefited me is to continue to learn. And so start conversations, ask questions, learn about people's pathways. Because a lot of times people make assumptions how individuals ended up where they did. And when really everybody has their own unique pathway. So the more you can build relationships, learn from others, you're only going to grow and become a better whatever fill in the blank you are, coach, administrator, et cetera. So that would be the biggest thing is the other piece is that it's a really small industry and that you never know who knows somebody. So again, the more you build relationships, the more positive relationships, the more that can only benefit you down the road.
I always preface this next question with, all the changes going on in college athletics are abundant and obvious, whether it's name, image, and likeness, transfer portal, conference realignment. Stepping away from that, though, over the course of your career, have you noticed a lot of change in the industry, maybe just on like a day-to-day basis or the business operations side, away from the obvious stuff that sports fans always focus on? Have you seen a lot of changes in the industry during your career?
Yeah, I think we're like no other. We reflect society, right? So as society evolves, we have to evolve with it. And so how we go about our day to day, and again, because we're working with young people, so what their expectations are, with how you communicate with them, how you motivate, how you discipline, all of those factors that some people don't realize is that, and you kind of see it with individuals, whether they be coaches or administrators that maybe say, I don't want to continue to evolve in these ways. So they get out of it. But I think that's the awesome part of what we do is because we have to continually grow and learn and evolve because our product is young people and they're not the same today as they were 20 plus years ago when I got into it, right? Nor are they the same as when I was a student athlete X number of years ago. We're not going to talk about how far back that was, but the point being, so how you go about communicating, how you go about doing your job, it has to evolve. And I think to me, someone who likes to be a lifelong learner, that's only to a benefit because that allows us to continue to keep it interesting and growing.
We've already been talking here for a few minutes, but I want to give you a chance, like an elevator pitch here. What makes your school, your athletic department unique and special? What do you think stands out specifically about Cal State Northridge?
Yeah, so many things. How much time do we got? So it starts with the institution. So being a part of the Cal State system, it's the largest higher ed structure in the world, right? We have 23 campuses, and we're one of the biggest, if not the biggest campus in that system, right? We're close to 40,000 students in total, and we're right here in Los Angeles. And so how wonderful is that to be a part of something that's so important to what we do within higher ed? And then you take that to be the athletics department. So in my role, what I loved about coaching and what I do now is we help build culture. And so what we're very about is finding people who are like-minded, again, that want to be a part of an athletics department, an institution that's very student athlete centered, but not in a way that allows decision making to be dispersed, but in such a way is that we understand why we do what we're doing. And what I mean by that is that we win, we want to have success, but we do it in such a way as that we're developing the whole student. So we're ensuring they're graduating, we're ensuring supporting them and finding them the tools and resources to grow as people. And when you bring a bunch of people together that are like-minded, that are in a healthy space, that we treat everybody with tremendous respect because they're all professionals in what they do. And when you do that and you hold each other accountable, you can do some special things. And I think my track record as an athletic director, like what we were able to accomplish at Cal State San Bernardino before I came here, we took a very Midland athletics department and we turned it into one of the tops in the country, with national championships and almost every support competing in the NCAA tournament, having their best seasons in their history. And now starting to see the progress we're making here. It's tremendously satisfying to know how we go about it. The proof is there that it works and that people really enjoy what they're doing.
That leads me to my next question, and I always preface this because I know people don't always like bragging about themselves, but let me ask you, what do you think are your most important traits that have allowed you to be successful in this industry and in your role?
Well, and that's the cool part because I get to brag on the others. And so I get to benefit from their great work, right? And that's something that I really try and do is identify people who are very talented, very like-minded, and then provide the support and resources to let them thrive. And that's really my job, right? As the athletics director is to identify really talented people, help set a course and direction, and then do everything I can to support them to be successful, whether that be a coach, whether that be an executive lead administrator, whether that be someone who it's their first job. And so when it's their first job, it's ensuring that they're given the right support and direction so they can be successful. But if we have people that aren't being successful and are failing, ultimately that comes back on me and the structure that we put in place, right? And so what I love about what I do is I help really talented people be really good at what they do.
I ask everyone that we talk to about the hiring process in recent years because we hear from a lot of folks that getting the same number of applicants, maybe the same type of applicants as years past,
Mhm.
maybe a decade ago, things have changed. It's become a little more challenging. So, without putting words into your mouth, let me ask you the same idea. What's it been like in recent years hiring in college athletics?
Well, yeah, there's two elements to that. One, there's just higher ed and the transitions of both COVID and post-COVID. And then with college athletics, you talked about, the evolution of college athletics, and we're seeing it absolutely in the employment sector, right? The willingness, desire of people to enter it has gone down because of those crazy hours. And that's where I go back to it's really important the culture you build. You got to make sure people stay connected to their why. Because if it's strictly a zero sum, how much money am I going to make versus how many hours I put in, it's going to be a real struggle because athletics, you put in the hours, right? And it's nights and weekends. And so it's really important to continue to find people that want to be a part of that. And there's just a reality that the depth of the pool nationally, regionally is just not there. And then LA, our cost of living. So for us to recruit outside the region is another challenge we have because people see, oh, that's a great salary because we pay well, but then they look at the cost of living, right? Where it costs to live here versus other spaces. And so like products like what you guys have, the more information and the more exposure we can have with them and they can have with us, right? And the more conversations can get created on why CSUN and the benefits that we provide are vital, are absolutely vital because it's getting more and more challenging, again, to tell a story that excites people to want to be a part of it.
Which is a perfect segue to what I'll ask you next. Obviously, we're very pleased to be able to partner with your athletic department, you and everyone else. When you look at intercollegiate recruiter, one of the things we hear often is that all the data, the information is in one place. What's something that has stood out about those tools that you think could help you and help your department, moving forward?
Yeah, and so again, my background, I come from law, a lot of research, right? I'm perfectly comfortable of diving in. So the more data you give me, that excites me because that just makes me make a more informed decision, both in how we craft our positions, how we craft our salaries, the type of talent pool that's out there, what our peers are doing, and just the more information that we have to make more intentional right decisions is fantastic. And so it's very much appreciated that we can have this partnership you can provide the information that allows us to put ourselves in a position to attract the right candidates because so much of it in this industry is word of mouth, but so much of it is necessary to use the tools that are available to us to allow us to again find that right person.
It's a new partnership, so as you move forward, you continue to get more time with the features, but there are a lot of advanced features, especially with intercollegiate recruiters. So just curious, are there certain things that you are excited to be able to use along with just having all the data at your fingertips?
Yeah, something like, again, I'm just initially exploring. So one of the
Mhm.
things is that because it's all get funneled together, right? So you don't have to go and find. And so for me, I always like to again be very intentional with the positions we create as a institution that's not as resourced as well as some others. We have to get it right on the positions we craft and based off of the needs we have, right? And so having the opportunity at this point to kind of look at how others are doing it. So it helps us inform us how we continue to evolve and move forward. So one space that's it's a constant evolution over the last 20 years, I'll say, is the sports, what used to be called sports information, right? And now it's strategic communications, it's evolving even more, and AI in the what it's doing in this space. And I bring this up because how can we best be using this space to provide the needs of our customers, right? Those who want to know more about CSUN, and also our ability to tell the story of our student athletes and our coaches, et cetera, right? What we're doing here, because we're doing some great stuff. And so this is an area like I've started looking at, okay, how are other people going about it and shaping it so we can do the same and be continually moving forward as opposed to just doing it as it's always been done.
Well, it's great to have CSUN as an intercollegiate partner. Before I let you go, we always end with this, and
Yeah.
I'll put you on the spot for the last question. But what do you think is the best piece of advice that you've ever been given in life or, in your career that you feel like you use and apply today on maybe a daily basis in your role as the director of athletics?
Well, in my roles, this is something I haven't always used, but now in a leadership position where we don't have an infinite amount of resources. So I keep a little note in front of me, and it says, focus on the things that add value. And that's both resource allocation, that's our people. The greatest qualities of top producers are humility, learning, discovery, growth, and a passion for serving others. And then finally, grittiness. And so if I keep reminding myself personally, if I'm doing those things, then we're going to see positive outcomes. And I share that with my leadership team too. And it's like, again, guys, if we remember that we're serving others and we focus on these things, because in athletics, every day is a new day. It can be very unique and get pulled in different directions. But remember to stay focused on what's important, then we're going to have the outcomes that reflect it.
I think a great piece of advice to end our conversation on. Thank you to Shawn Chin-Farrell, the Director of Athletics at Cal State University Northridge, for taking the time out to join us for this edition of Intercollegiate Conversations. And thank you to you for taking the time out to watch this edition of Intercollegiate Conversations. We encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you don't miss any of our content or conversations in the future. And we also encourage you to check out intercollegiate.co. It's the most comprehensive job board out there for college athletics. Life is a series of hellos and goodbyes. And for now, we say goodbye.